Yesterday, we brought you a story about Ted Cruz, senator from Texas. Turns out he was not born in the United States, even though he's thinking of running for president in 2016. Presents a bit of a challenge for him, but he says it's okay, even though he acknowledges that he was born in Calgary, Canada, that his mother was a U.S. citizen, so of course he could run for president. Now, the Tea Party folks that support Ted Cruz, I don't remember them saying the same thing about President Obama, whose mother was also indisputably a United States citizen. That was interesting. Well, now that he's gotten into a little bit of a issue within the Republican Party over this, Ted Cruz is going to go over the top and say, oh, no. I am not Canadian. I mean, you technically are. Well, I'm not going to be anymore. But believe me, I don't like Canada. I would spit on it if I could. Now, let me give you his exact quote. Now the Dallas Morning News says that I may technically have dual citizenship. Oh, like you didn't know that your whole 42 years, 43 years of your life. Oh, technically I might be a dual citizen. Oh, surprise, surprise. Assuming that it is true, like you didn't look into it, then sure, I will renounce any Canadian citizenship. Nothing against Canada, but I'm an American by birth, and as a U.S. Senator, I believe I should be only an American. Now, of course, he was born in Canada, lived there till he was 4, and then he moved to Texas. And his father was not an American either when he was born, but now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, that's very similar to my situation, and there's nothing wrong with becoming an American later and saying you love this country. It's interesting that a lot of his supporters, on the other hand, thought if you were born in Hawaii, not quite good enough. And if your mother is an American from Kansas, as President Obama's was, not quite good enough. But now, of course, as with everything with Ted Cruz, since he has such an enormous ego, he actually views all this as good news, because it must mean that he's really important. He's going to talk to Mary Madeline on the radio, and this unbearable back and forth is going to ensue.
And it brings up the political issue of your birth certificate. If it weren't true that you were the most skilled, most threatening, most scary thing to Democrats, they wouldn't have been making you would not have had to release your birth certificate. So what does that release mean?
Well, look, a reporter asked for a copy of my birth certificate, so we said sure and gave it to him. I mean, it's, I will admit, I find the tizzy in the media a little bit amusing. I mean, I suppose the fact that the New York Times is this hysterical after my only having been in office about 8 months, maybe that's a sign that we might be doing something right.
If I get criticized, it must mean I'm totally right. God, he looks like the smuggest man in America. It is such a great Rush Limbaugh logic. If I ever get criticized by the other side, it must mean I'm awesome. What if they criticize you for being caught with a gay hooker? Does that mean, oh, you're on to something here. You should be with more gay hookers, which I got no problems with, but my guess is it wouldn't play well in the Republican Party. But no, New York Times criticized me. I must be doing it right. By the way, they pretend that it is the liberals that are doing this, and Sean Hannity had a whole segment about liberal birthers, as if there are any. The liberal guest he had on was like, I don't know of a single one who's a so-called birther, just pointing out your hypocrisy, right? But the New York Times, well, I mean, they must have written about this over and over, right? They wrote about it. One person wrote about it once. What's the New York Times? So how in the world did this get into the press in the first place? It turns out it wasn't liberals, it wasn't the New York Times, it was Rand Paul's people. Now that's the rumors that are swirling around. All this stuff when it comes to campaigns are very hard to confirm. But you get an excellent sense from the legislative director of the Campaign for Liberty, which backs Rand Paul. Jeff Shipley says, if you're going to call yourself a true constitutionalist, well, it's right there in the Constitution. Obviously, that's something Mr. Cruz needs to address, that he's eligible for the office. With the legal document, it's all language, and he's a very competent lawyer, so I'm sure he can get around to it. Or around it. What? We didn't say anything. We're just saying, are you a natural-born citizen? That's in the Constitution. Do you care about the Constitution? I guess it's an issue. I didn't say anything. Must have been the New York Times. No, it wasn't the New York Times. It was you guys. Because there isn't much that distinguishes Rand Paul from Ted Cruz. They're both insane libertarians. Some things that we like, they're against the drone strikes. Rand Paul is against all the wars. Ted Cruz, we're going to find out a little bit more.